Yo, and hello. Top of the morning to you. It's your boy Ammo coming live and direct from the studio of the Mind of a Man podcast. And I'm here to tell you about a proud sponsor of the podcast. It is thejvrtaxgroup.com. Now listen, they are building relationships one client at a time. And I assure you, if you want virtual consultations, business consultations, if you want to get your taxes prepared virtually or in person, they can do all of that. The way you can reach these guys, because I know you was waiting on that part, thejvrtaxgroup.com. I repeat, www.thejvrtaxgroup.com, as well as 888-325-0869. Call them, go to the website, book a consultation, do all those things, and tell them Ammo sent you. Hey, man, go flood them, man. Go show them some love, man. Go holler at them and let them know so they can continue to rock with the kid. You know what I'm talking about? Until next time, say la. Peace, man. I'm out. No pictures. Please, no pictures.
That's good, Doc. Brother,
I ain't gonna hold you.
I'm telling you, man.
That's good, Doc.
Listen, if she can't pray for you, she shouldn't play with you. I'm serious, because I mean, everybody can play. Everybody can enjoy those nuances of life. But I need to hear, like, that's let me hear you pray. Let me hear you pray for me.
Yeah. Come on.
You know
Come
what I
on,
mean?
Randy C. Mays.
Like, just go. Oh, can you pray for me tonight, girl? Like,
Right. Now you're bashful.
That's the test.
You can't
right
fight
there.
no battles for me. Listen, I need you to be able to pray.
Listen, I ain't trying to be disgusting, but if she quick to put her mouth on you, but can't put her mouth toward God for you, she not the one. She not the one.
Listen.
She not the one, sir. Ma'am, keep your mouth to yourself.
Yeah.
Pray for him first.
Yeah.
Pray for him first.
That's good.
Yeah, man.
Okay. Top of the morning, the afternoon, and the evening to you. It's your boy Ammo coming live and direct from the studio of the Mind of a Man podcast, where we give you a holistic peek inside of the mind of a kingdom man. And the approach is three-tiered: mind, body, and soul, with the end result being a community of men who are whole, healthy, and healed. With that being said, we have the Couch Talk segment, where I'm going to be introducing my special guest, the man with the heart of gold, the bishop, the illustrious,
all of that
stuff encompassing Pastor James Ray Taylor. Let me give you a little bit of that. A little bit of a hand
Listen,
clap.
I'll take it.
You know what I'm saying? Man, welcome to Couch Talk, man. My first guest.
Man, I'm honored to be here. I'm telling you, I'm putting this on my resume. I'm gonna be letting everybody know. Like, I'm so honored to be in this studio, Mind of a Man podcast. Listen, I'm on 10. You
see?
You can't tell me nothing.
You see how you do it?
No, that's real. No cap.
You see how you tug at the whole heartstrings?
You can't tell me nothing, man. I'm in the spot. Listen, I'm happy to be here, man. Thank you for inviting me.
No problem, man. We want to, what I want to do with this is, interview some of the greatest minds and hearts that I know.
Wow.
And hopefully that it would bless men, it would challenge them, but like I said, building a community of men who are whole, healthy, and healed, man.
Yeah.
And so I definitely want to get inside of your mind, hear about your experiences, how you grew up, how you got into ministry, family, business. We want to talk about it all, whatever feels comfortable to you, so to speak.
Well, listen, we out here now. So.
Yes, sir. We in these streets.
We out here now. So,
you know what I'm saying?
Listen.
Okay, so first of all, tell me about who James Ray Taylor is at the core of you. Before we get to, how you grew up and all of those things, like, who is James Ray Taylor?
Man, that's a loaded question, but I'll do my best to answer it. I think at the core of who I am, I'm a guy who loves God, a guy who loves his family, a guy who still honestly wrestles with uncertainty. And that could be due to, different ways that I was raised. But ultimately, I'm a man who is going to do whatever it takes to get to where I know I need to be.
So I got to go back to the uncertainty piece.
Let's go.
Because we, being believers and, having this idea of, walking by faith and trusting God, to maybe an immature believer, they may not understand the idea of somebody being human and still being a believer who loves God, who trusts God, but still wrestles with uncertainty. What do you think the reason is that you may wrestle with that uncertainty, and what is the fix for it, so to speak?
Okay. Well, so yes, as a man of faith, I'm not just a faith leader. I have faith. You know what I mean? Right. Sometimes it's a difference. You got faith leaders, they ain't got no faith. We ain't talking about them.
Right.
But, I have complete, total confidence in Christ. I have no doubt that God is going to be God and do all the things that God can do. The uncertainty comes with me because I'm human. Right. I'm frail. I'm finite. My mind doesn't always hit all the marks. And so the uncertainty, is me recognizing that while God is perfect, he's going to do everything. He's omniscient. I know that there are gaps in myself. And I think sometimes self-awareness and self-consciousness wrestle with each other. I think it's good to be self-aware, but I know for myself, I've wrestled with self-consciousness. And the more conscious I am of me, the less conscious I am of God. And so that uncertainty is just probably me focusing too much on myself in certain areas and depending too much on myself to where I'm not certain if I can accomplish it or not. And so I think that that's where a lot of my personal uncertainty still resides. And so, I'm having to shift, but at present, to be honest, like that is something I still wrestle with.
Now, the scholar I am in the Bible I read.
Come on.
and whether we're talking about hermeneutics, anyway.
Homiletics.
Homiletics. I just put together noodles and some other stuff. But I think about the story of Gideon, and I wonder, when you say maybe the way you were raised, if it's, but I'm the weakest in my clan type of ideal going on. Tell me about how you were raised. Were both parents present? What did that dynamic look like? Were there siblings involved?
Atmo, you just turned this into part 2 because but seriously, so my mother, wonderful woman. I love my mom. Shout out to Lucy Clark. Is a wonderful woman. My dad, James Albert Taylor, amazing, great guy. They just weren't together.
Okay.
My dad had a family. He had 2 sets of children before I was born. And he came to California. That's where I lived at that time. He came to, my mother lived. I wasn't born yet. Came to California. He was a pastor already. He did a revival at my home church. Fell in love with my mom. It was kind of like, you remember, on Harlem Nights where the guy, sleeps with Sunshine.
Yeah.
Like, put your mother on the phone. Hey, I ain't coming home no more. It's hilarious, but
hang it up.
Listen, whatever my mom did, she called my dad to say, listen, I ain't going back to Chicago. I'm staying in LA. And my stepmom and my siblings, they all moved to LA. Wow. And it took me years to come to grips with this. Like, as a pastor, as a leader, as a man, as a father, I would encourage any man I lead, if they had an extramarital affair, and even if they had a child in an extramarital affair, I would still encourage that man. If their marriage was strong enough to survive it, I would encourage that man to go back to his wife and his family.
Yeah.
I would do that right now at this state. So it took me a long time to stop being mad at my dad for doing the right thing. I mean, he wasn't a deadbeat father. It just, with the context of he was still a pastor. He's still leading church and coming back from a moral failure, building his life. And so now my dad and I, we have a great relationship now, but it took years.
Absolutely.
And so a lot of that uncertainty came from the fact that, on my dad's side, all my sisters and brothers, they had each other. Yeah. I was the only child.
Wow. Yeah.
And so now my grandfather, who pastored the church that my dad came to preach at.
Y'all connected.
Who I ultimately took over that church and started pastoring later on in life. He was a great father to me. I mean, I live with my granddad. I mean, he died when he was 86. And I tell everybody my best friend was 86.
Wow.
And so he gave me everything I needed. But because it wasn't like that. Yeah. Because it wasn't the traditional mom and dad in the household together. You know, a part of me wanted my dad to leave his wife and be with my mom, you know, and disrupt his ministry, his family, his house, and all the other things going on just so that I could be happy.
Yeah.
And I could be affirmed.
I want to be the center. I want to be made of importance in my mind. Absolutely.
So self-centered. Yeah, man. It took me to mature to get to a place to understand that I wasn't missing anything. All the affirmation, all the support I ever needed, I had it. Wow. In my grandfather and the other men that were around me, and in seasons from my father. But because it wasn't the way I pictured it or I idealed it to be, you know, I'd wrestle with that. And so it's still a process of getting over the fact that while it wasn't the way I wanted it to be, right. God was sovereign in that. So just dealing with me, really.
And when I hear that, it just makes me think about just the reality of being a kid and being faced with adult situations.
Yes, sir.
It's not that you're self-centered as a kid, in my honest opinion. It's just you were thrown into something you had no control over. And you're trying to wrestle and piece it together to make it make sense. It makes me also think, what is your idea of manhood at that juncture? Like, you have your grandfather, you have your father, you have this situation, you're trying to make sense of it. What is that telling you about life? What is that telling you about being a man or being a father? How do you piece it together at that time in your life?
Oh man, it was, I would say like a turning point or breaking point, one or the other. Like around 16, I just kind of blew up with my dad. And in retrospect, I honor him even more now because he actually let me give it to him. He didn't slap me. He didn't punch me. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. He just absorbed it because, and I'm mad at you and I'm this and that. You weren't here for me, so forth. And I'm pushing all this anger, this aggression, this negative energy out of my father, and he just takes it. And the idea is, I was, like you said, I was too young. And so at that point in time, I was totally dismissing the fact that my grandfather was giving me everything at the same time.
Right.
So I had this dichotomy of manhood. Like I seen what I thought was terrible manhood in my father. But then at the same time, I seen this amazing stand-up guy in my grandfather, and just having to take a moment to reconcile the two. So it took me from 16 to 18 to actually get a good understanding of manhood and begin to come to the realization that my dad wasn't as bad as I made him out to be. Yeah. He just had a tough situation.
Yeah.
And he had to make the best of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so for me, I was beginning to consider manhood as having to make hard decisions and make the best of bad situations.
And that's a lot to be young. That's crazy. And so my question is, you have a clear understanding now of what happened. Was there ever a time between when it happened? Of course, you know, there was a lot of room where there couldn't be a dialogue because you were too young. In 16, did y'all ever talk about the situation so that you could flesh that out with your dad?
You know, again, shout out to my dad because he did his best. Now, imagine having 3 sets of kids, one ex-wife, one present wife, and a baby mama, and you pastoring.
Yeah.
He pastored several churches. So anyway, but there were times when he indulged me in certain conversations, but it was age appropriate, really. And so there were levels of it. And so from the beginning, even different times where I would go and stay with my father and my stepmom and my, you know, she's just Mom Marsha now, you know, it's love.
Yeah.
But, you know, and my brothers and sisters, it was, you know, it was still tough. And so as situations arose, I think we would dialogue about it then. Now, of course, my mom, you know, she's better now, but you know, she had a tough time back then when I was younger. And so I had to kind of flush out the dialogue between, you know, the conversations I would have at my dad's house and then the conversations I would have at home. And she wasn't toxic about it, but I mean, it was tough.
You could tell it was something that bothered.
But I can say that it was always age appropriate. Like it wasn't that I had conversations outside of my ability to comprehend.
Yeah.
And I've always kind of been like a little man, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've always been, kind of a little more mature than the average kids, but it was always kind of like, it was appropriate to what I could handle. Like we didn't go above, my comprehension or my emotional quotient at that time.
Yeah. Okay. So now we fleshing through all of that. And then we get to the understanding of your father being a pastor, being a spiritual leader, having a flock.
Right.
And then dealing with all of his adult things. How did that affect your view of God? And how did you come to faith? What was that like for you, if you can kind of remember that time and what it meant to you?
Well, so for me, there were several things that were always concrete and fundamental to me, and Christ was one of them. Nobody had to tell me to give my life to Jesus. Like it has to be, from my grandfather, from the family that I was raised in, the household I was raised in. Like Christ has always been there. Like there's never been a season in my life that I doubted Christ. My family say I started preaching at 4. Like I was a little 4-year-old kid.
You one of them prodigies.
Yeah. I'm making church, in the house and stuff like that. I'm making, little friends. Y'all, it's the church. We play in church today.
Fast
I'm
these sacraments.
Listen, taking their money, coins. I'm like, this, what's the offering? they were like, that was me. No, serious. And so faith was never a question for me. Any like existential issues I always had was on the man side. Like and thanks be to God, I never questioned God about that stuff. Now there were times I asked God, why did I have to be in this situation? But there was never a time where I doubted that God was real, that he was present, that he loved me. And I have to give that credit to my grandparents and my mother, and also then my father, for always making faith paramount. And so there is something to living in a Christian home. There is something to having parents who value Christian community, and value the scripture and value prayer. It's something about hearing that gospel music in the house, that early in the morning, all of that.
Going through things or a thing, and Christ still being the center of it all, even through your imperfections. It shows you that when you think something is the worst, no, it's okay.
Yes,
it'll get better, or there are people who are experiencing far worse, so yeah, it gives you that perspective.
Absolutely.
And I could think back to me being like 12 years old, 13 years old, somewhere around that. And it was one of those, what's it called? Those, was it a watch service at the end
watch night at New Year's Eve? Watch night service.
And I remember sitting on the back pew because I didn't want to deal with these folks, and I didn't want to be there. I wanted to do something fun. And I remember God speaking to me, and me walking down that long aisle to get to the front.
Pews on both sides.
Yeah, and I remember seeing my sin for the first time.
Wow.
And being like, wow, like this could only be possible because of a God that is very real.
Yes, sir.
And going home, and even in my mind, I was always a mature kid, but I remember at that time, like, okay, you got to do everything your granny says. You got to clean your room.
Right.
Like my do's and don'ts to the faith. And I tell people that experience right then, and I'm 35 now, so over 20 years ago, has literally kept me knowing that I felt God that night, knowing that he was real, kept me through a divorce. It kept me through struggling through parenthood, struggling through not having parents that were present.
Right.
That, I tell people, like, we're in Arlington. Let's just say my dad stayed in Fort Worth. He just never came around.
Yeah.
My mom was in jail almost all of my life.
Wow.
She's out now, but I remember same thing, like knowing that God was real, never blaming him, but being like, why is this my lot?
Yeah,
though?
asking those questions.
Why do I have to go through this stuff? Like, why can't it just be good? You know what I'm saying?
I think it's important to know that God is up for the questions. Because
people say, well, don't question God.
Yeah, now here's the thing. Right, I agree. Don't question God's validity. Don't question God's divinity. Don't question God's, omniscience. But God is always up for the question, your question. he always has answers for us. He's omniscient. He knows everything. And so he's open to answer our questions. We just got to be open enough to ask him and be ready for a real answer.
Yeah.
Was that Job? Listen, Job, he's asking God. And so God, then he has a dialogue. Well, let's talk about it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then Job is like, nah, my bad. I'm sorry. You know, you got, you right. Elohim, I see you. Yeah. My bad. You know? Yeah. And so I think that God is always up for discussion. You know, he says in the scripture, come let us reason together. Yeah. You know, and so I think that many times, you know, we find ourselves in these spaces of despair simply because we're not open to have a discussion with the God who has all the answers.
Yeah, that's good. So let's get into women, so to speak.
Okay.
So, and I say that because I'm listening to Tim Ross's podcast, right?
I love Pastor Tim Ross.
I love him, man. The way he breaks stuff down is great. And he's talking about how his family pretty much became into existence from the Irishman or whoever he was that fell in love with his great-great-grandma, whoever she was. And, you know, white man marries this black woman.
Okay.
And it's like in the 1800s. And they said they married him, but they didn't put wife on the certificate because she was black. So they put concubine, right? So it's this great love story, right? Where his family dispelled racism in their lineage through that. But then here's the caveat. He says, but he was a bigot. He had a whole nother family and all of this, right?
Wow.
And so Tim says, well, what I grew to understand is that this proclivity for women is in my bloodline. It's in my genes.
Yeah.
When you think about, or when you speak about what happened with your father, was there this room to err there for you, or were you able to maneuver around that to kind of say, no, I understand what happened, but this stops with me?
Nah, bruh. I went head first into that pothole. You hear what I'm saying? But here's the crazy thing. I have, and my wife and I, we're open, and even our church, So I started pastoring 18. I started pastoring Heavenly Vision at 18 years old. I was ready to go to NYU. I was going to be poli-sci major. I was going to be Johnny Cochran. I know some people.
Yeah.
Some of the younger viewers, they like,
don't fit.
Who? Glove don't fit. You must have quit. Like, who is Johnny Cochran? No. So that was my idol. I wanted to be Johnny Cochran. But when I was getting ready to graduate, my grandfather was like, you going to pastor this church. I'm getting ready to retire. I'm 80. I'm done. I can't do this no more. It's your time. God called you. You're going to do this. So instead of going to college after high school, I went into the pulpit, into full-time pastoring.
Where's your mind at that moment? Because you got these plans, but then, oh man, but this is so good.
Hell no, that's where my mind is. Excuse me, y'all.
You good.
Heck no, I ain't doing this.
And I say that because this is another thing that he spoke to on a different pod, Tim, and he's talking about having somebody that you submit to.
Yes, sir.
Where if they say, don't do this, you listen. If they say, well, I would do it this way, you do it. So being 18, this is your best friend. I know it's not something you're excited about because you're thinking, man, I'm good with these words, man.
Yeah.
Oh, I could argue under the table. I can convince you. Trust me. And he says, but you're going to use it for the kingdom.
Yeah.
Did you know? Now, he says you were called. Did you know you were called?
Now, that's the thing. Remember, like I was saying, from age 4. So I always knew I had this gift. Always knew this. And, I was serving in ministry. I was, in youth ministry. I'm good. But then, when I turned 18, though, I love y'all.
I got to do what I want to do.
I'm about to go do my thing. But it's to that level of submission. Like there was nobody I was more submitted to than the Reverend Dr. Joseph Lee Jr. That's good. When he said that, I immediately, of course I agreed. I immediately went to a grieving process. Really, that was it. I grieved the fact that all the plans I had are now dead. Because Paul, Pastor Lee, Dr. Lee said, this is what I've been called to do.
Wow.
And so I just went into a grieving process. Like, I grieved my plans, I grieved my desires, and to your initial question to me, I think that's one of the things that led me into. So I got into this high school senior year. I'm dating an Indian girl, and she's Jehovah's Witness. I had dinner with her family, and her dad like told me to my face, I don't like black people. I don't know why my daughter's with you. And I only allowed you to be here because she said that you were a minister. And so I wanted to give you the respect of telling you my...
Your little faith is the only thing.
Yeah. And so, we tried, then, that didn't work past high school. So I'm out here brokenhearted, and I got with the wrong person. And this was almost around the time where I'm meeting Karen. So I'm trying to break off this bad relationship.
Lady K for those y'all.
Yeah. Karen Taylor. Shout out to the love of my life.
Come on now.
And so, man, I got into this terrible relationship, and it's just the wrong person. No shade to her. It was just the wrong thing to do. And she ended up getting pregnant. Oh yes.
By the honorable?
Listen. And so here's the thing. We were broken up.
Yeah.
And so she calls me like, yep, I'm pregnant, so forth. So now I'm pastor now. This is post 18. So I'm like closer to 19. And we ended up doing all the paternity stuff like that. It ended up not being my child.
Wow.
But I was invested before I even went into the paternity side.
She was in them streets.
Listen. And so the thing is, I mean, that's one of the reasons why we broke up no shade. Again,
I got you. Yeah.
That was
I'll say it for you. Yeah. You foul. I don't know who he is. I'm looking at the camera thing. You out of pocket.
No, I'm foul. I'm out of pocket because I should have been there. I should have been in the first place. No, it's all me. It's James Taylor. But, by the grace of God, Karen, she and I, we made it through, 2005. We get married, and we...
Good year. I graduated high school that year. That's a good year.
You graduated high school, and I got a wife.
Yeah. Come on now.
Come on. And so, just moving forward, but that pothole, watch this, had I not fell in it, then I would not have grace for my father. And I would not have grace for all the men that I would subsequently have to minister to, disciple, pastor, spiritually father, had I not been there. You know how Paul says, take heed lest you fall.
Yeah.
And so I had to fall to get an understanding. And I'm so thankful to God that he allowed me to do when I was young.
Yeah.
Like, I can't even afford a moral failure like that now. You know what I mean?
Right.
I can't even afford it now.
The cachet is there.
And you hear what I'm saying? Now watch this though. Rewind. I go through this scenario, 18, 19. My dad is in his 40s when he's like late 30s. Yeah, I think like his late 30s when I was born. Mm-hmm. And is already pastoring, already, building ministry, gaining traction. And so it immediately caused me to have so much empathy for my father.
Right.
Like I'm an 18-year-old, I'm a 19-year-old. Yeah, 19 when all this went down. And I'm navigating all of this in the church and, and some people give me grace, he's still a kid. He's still, but my dad, a full grown man, married, kids and everything. And had to walk through this stuff. He didn't resign, he had great leaders that, that kind of walked him through restoration. But he had to pastor through all that stuff. And I was his.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Couldn't deny me, And so it allowed me to have a greater level of grace and empathy and understanding for my father. And so from that moment on, me and James Albert Taylor, we had a different relationship. I've seen him different.
Okay. We're going to take a break. We got to pay some bills. But when we get back, I got a question for you. You just put something in my head.
All right.
That's current and relevant that we're going to get to when we get back. Now, when we talk about ministers, when we talk about infidelity, when we talk about covering and grace and all those things.
Yes, sir.
Now, I do believe there's a difference between being caught in a thing and actively living in something, right?
Yeah, that's the difference.
It brings me to a pastor that is well known, John Gray.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, prayerfully, I hope his health and everything is fine. And this isn't the platform to bash or anything, but I do want to get understanding and insight from one pastor leader to another about what is missing when something like that becomes something that is habitual. And it's not to say that he's just like, we're all inherently sinners. We all go through things. We all have deficiencies. But what is it that is missing in a situation like that where it's a repeat offense? Number one. Number two, you are well known and your wife is still there and still honoring that covenant. What is it that
she should?
It's
she
right.
Should, right.
What if that? Well, I will say if that's your ministry.
Yeah, if
that's your ministry,
right.
Absolutely. What is it that maybe you can encourage somebody? Maybe you can provide some understanding. Maybe John Gray himself watches this. I don't know, but is there something that is missing, and is there some encouragement to be given?
Well, one, the grace of God is sufficient, and that's something that we all need to remember at all times.
Right.
But I think for me, and I can only speak for me, I love Pastor Gray, love the Gray family, Relentless Church, amazing people. For me, as a senior leader in the church, I would say it is necessary to have direct accountability. Mm-hmm. I alluded to this one Sunday when I was preaching at KCC that I was good in LA. We were doing well. Even pre-pandemic. Things were on the rise, and even from a business perspective. So I was branching out outside of ministry. So I'm making a name for myself. In another sphere in the city. From the base of a faith leader, but also kind of moving forward, into real estate and doing different things and stuff like that. And so there were opportunities for me, and there were rooms that I was being invited to that could allow me to engage in some stuff that wasn't of God. And I believe the call of God, when Dr. Goins came to LA, preached for us, and Karen heard it. God said it. Karen heard it. Dr. Goins heard it. I was the last one to catch up. But, God led us here. I genuinely believe that God knew that in this season of my life, it was better for me that I have direct accountability. Like I see Ronnie Goins every day. I am with my senior leader. Now, I'm not saying that you got to, move states and, move positions, things of that nature. I'm saying for me, I need direct accountability.
Absolutely.
For some people that may look like I'm bringing you on staff just to be my accountability. Like all you do is hold me accountable. I'll pay you 50 G's a year just to hold me accountable.
Wow.
That elder statesman that's retired, and he good. He didn't been to seminary, everything. He didn't pastored. He retired. Pastor, this is what you do for me. For my grandfather, he was that for me when I allowed him to be. Mm-hmm. He was that direct accountability. And so however that works, I think it's necessary. I'll kind of peel back the curtain for a minute. One of my favorite preachers, Dr. Brian Loritz. Mm-hmm. We brought him here last year for our annual discipleship conference, and a part of his booking information, he lets us know that he travels with one of his a male ministry intern, and it's in language as a point of accountability.
Absolutely.
I'm in a different city. Different town, different time, whatever the case may be, away from my wife and my family. I need y'all to know that I'm coming with somebody just to keep me accountable. Not to say that anything is, he nasty or anything like that.
Right. Absolutely.
I believe he's a fine, upstanding, honorable man from what I could tell of his life. But that direct accountability is necessary. There are some things that won't happen if somebody else is there.
Absolutely.
I won't, if you're standing directly behind me, I can't fall. because you got to catch me.
That's good.
And so I think there is a great, not just for singulators, for anybody. Everybody needs direct, in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Everybody needs direct accountability. Not this aloof stuff like, oh, we'll check in every once in a while. No, you need somebody that know your location. Come on, iPhone users, you know what I mean? Share indefinitely, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, indefinitely.
Some people need to be able to check you, to know, some people need to know where you're spending your money.
Absolutely.
Where the dead bodies are, all of that, so that they can hold you accountable consistently.
Okay. So you spoke of the great Lady K.
Yes. Karen, I love her.
Walk me through marriage, what it has done for you, maybe some misconceptions of what you thought marriage would be, and then how you were faced with the reality of what it is,
So Karen and I, we started dating at 19. We got married at 21. And I think the biggest misconception is that she will always be this way. Or he, for that matter.
Yeah.
That they won't mature, that they won't grow, that they won't, change. Because you fall in love with this person, especially if you're younger. I mean, y'all, listen. It's different when you're younger. You know what? I don't know the age frame of the viewership, so I'm gonna keep my mouth.
Man, we talking, man. We on the couch, we talking.
It's different when you're young, and I think one of the biggest misconception was that she was gonna always be this 21-year-old that it's going down any and everywhere, and it's this and it's that and it's whatever.
You look this way, always.
What I mean? Yeah. And I think that the biggest misconception is change, evolution, education.
It's inevitable.
There were certain things that I could get away with that now she just smarter. You know what I mean? I can't even lie like that anymore. Like certain lies have shelf life. You know what I mean? Like you can't even tell her that no more. You know, I was at so house. So what?
Right.
What? But you know what I mean? And so,
come on.
I think that was one of the biggest misconceptions. That we wouldn't change, mature, get older.
What was the thing that has helped you with? Because every man, even the most mature, we still don't be holding a candle to women. Sometimes up until a certain point, or sometimes ever. You know what I'm saying? In what ways has marriage molded you into this, or helped you work on whatever this thing is?
And I'm gonna say this: Karen has been the best accountability partner. She's helped me. We talk. We on the couch. So we just gonna put it all out there. There was a season when I lost my license. My license was suspended.
Wow.
And I don't know. Y'all brothers always do right. I'm out here riding dirty. I'm talking about for the longest time. You hear what I'm saying? Right. I ain't with the DMV for nothing. And one day she asked me, "How long are you gonna put our family in danger like this?"
They know how to cut, don't they?
Listen.
Go right to the family. How long you gonna do us like
this?
Yeah.
How long are you gonna, and so from that day on, I did not drive a car.
Wow.
I rode now listen, I own a car and I did not drive it. Rode the bus, thanks be to God, I had some amazing men who love me. They'd come pick me up, and they drive me, and like for people on the outside, they were like, "Oh man, he really a pastor. He got men driving him and everything." They ain't even folk on the outside. They just think I'm balling out, or I'm trying to be somebody. They ain't even know that I'm actually exercising accountability.
My license is gone.
I ain't got no license. You hear what I'm saying?
I'm trying to be a law-abiding citizen
at this point in time, right? Right. And so, and just in different seasons, she's been the one to hold me accountable, and not in a dictatorial or in a, well, listen, we ain't having sex till, or I ain't. She wasn't none of that. She was always kind, and she never stopped being a wife, but she held me accountable to being a husband. And I gotta give my girl props for that. She was a wife for me, even when I wasn't a good husband to her.
That's good. That's good.
And so, I think that was the biggest thing that it helped me, like in my house. You know, even like, you know what I'm saying, direct accountability, like for manhood, but even from my wife, like nobody knows you more than your wife.
Right.
You know,
Shouldn't.
Yeah. Shouldn't. Now that's a whole nother podcast, right? That's a whole nother. Listen, but for real, like she was the one that just stood there.
Yeah.
And again, asked the question. And if I could say anything to the wives that are listening, the women that want to be wives one day, you know how to ask your man the right questions. You know, all this, you know, all the nagging and all the this, that may not get you anywhere. Yeah. But if you learn how to ask that man the right question,
it'll spark something.
Listen, you will stop him dead in his tracks. That woman said, how long are you going to put our family in danger like this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Bro, I gave up the keys that night. I left the car in the driveway and was like, until further notice.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's big because we know how in marriage sometimes it could be very tit for tat.
Absolutely.
You ain't doing, so guess what? I ain't. Or that, well, you guess what? You can kiss this goodbye. Or you sleeping on and it's like, come on, that's not. Somebody has to be an adult. Somebody has to be mature. Somebody has to be the bigger person. Somebody has to look at their spouse as a brother and sister in Christ. One thing that Pastor said that always stuck with me is the 3 types of love.
Yeah.
And it's like you should be able to look at your spouse as a friend at some point, as a lover, and as a brother and sister in Christ.
Absolutely.
If at some point, one of those 3 should be clicking.
Absolutely.
And it's like when it's not, that's when all hell is broken loose.
Yeah, man.
And so now it brings me to, okay, so now you're in marriage, you're serving, and you talk about being in business and being in real estate. How did you get into those arenas? How did you find the time with the family, with the church to be able to spread those wings and be able to do other endeavors? And what were those endeavors?
Well, for me, now here's the cool part. You never lose anything when you serve God. Now, remember back when I said I wanted to go to NYU and I wanted to do, other things.
I object.
Right. So fast forward to now, I'm probably been pastoring about a decade now, and I get a letter in the mail from the University of Southern California, USC, saying, we want you to be a part of this cohort for young faith leaders. So I go, and USC was also a college I wanted to go to, but I didn't get accepted. So fast forward, a college that I didn't get accepted to, a university on the same par with NYU, hits me up. Now I've been serving God. I said yes to him, no to my dream. Now a place that once rejected me calls me and invites me to come.
I will prepare you a table before your interview.
So I get to SC and I'm doing their faith leader programs, and I'm learning about civic engagement. I'm learning about nonprofit development, so forth and so on. And in California at that point in time, and still today, homelessness is like just rampant. I mean, it's literally a pandemic.
Skid Row.
I mean, yes. And now with gentrification, it's like we're just dispersing all the homeless people because we want our downtown back. There used to be a time in downtown LA where you would leave at 9:00. You don't want to be in downtown LA after 9:00. Now with gentrification and LA Live, Staples and all that kind of stuff. Now you folk, walking a dog at 2:00 in the morning, drinking lattes and all that kind of stuff.
It's like that.
It's different. Okay. Skid Row ain't Skid Row no more.
Wow.
But here's the thing. So they began to push the homeless out into South Los Angeles, kind of areas where our church was. And, God, he opened the door at the right time to where we got into permanent supportive housing. And so property that we already had, it's like, okay, now there's in LA or in California, there's this bond called Triple H, $2 billion that the U.S. government invested into homelessness.
Wow.
And so you got a property that you can transform to build permanent supportive housing, multi-family dwellings, and you are able to get a contract with HUD to where now HUD is paying you to house people that were formerly homeless. And so we just started connecting dots, moving with the right people. And, we're still doing that now. And so it was kind of hand in hand with, with ministry, but it was just a different way of doing it.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, that's been tremendous. But the crazy part about it is coming here to KCC, in LA, our church was about 200 members, and so to come to Koinonia where, we got thousands of members.
Hey, but you was doing good over there now.
Listen,
not forsake that now.
Here's the thing. What I'm saying is that with the size of the congregation, I could manage. I had time to do both.
Yeah.
I had time to do both. You know what I mean? I could have my pastor hat, you know what I mean? Then I can have my developer hat over here, you know what I mean? And I could go to and fro. But now being here, it has taken a lot of my time. And so I've had to rely on my wife to support the developing of the business that we've started on the permanent supportive housing or on the real estate side. And so I think it's another mark for me. And listen, you need to get somebody that can have your back even in the boardroom.
I was just finna say that.
Listen.
I was just finna say, speak to how important it is to get what you need. To when you talking about joining with the spouse, to not just look at, oh, how pretty she is. Oh, look how cute he is. But where do we see ourselves going? And what does this person have that can help feed the vision that God has given me for myself or for our family?
And here's the thing, like at 18, 19, I did not see myself, trying to become a real estate mogul or, trying to engage in permanent supportive housing or something like that, or being a developer. All I knew is that I wanted to do something amazing with my life. And I needed to find somebody that could help me do that. I tell people all the time that if I was a plumber, Karen would probably be in the front office, scheduling appointments. She whatever God called me to do, she would be somewhere adjacent to that, part of that, in conjunction with that. And so I would encourage guys to, like, listen, just consider what your vision is for your life. Even if you don't have all the nuance together, you need to have somebody that is sold out for you.
You talking?
Because I don't think she, she had in mind to just be a developer or to get into all these different stuff, but she's into me. And since she's into me, whatever me is in, she gonna be in it too. I know that's bad English, but I felt it.
Nah, they get it. That just hit somebody in their shiny bobo. I promise you.
Listen. I mean, you know what I mean? Because you could have, sex and fun and all that kind of stuff, that's good, but you need to have somebody that's genuinely in, like, you got to have a woman that looks at you and, like, she wants you to win. If she don't look at you like that, pass.
That speaks to some things. Speak to some things.
Like,
listen,
look at her. Like, you need to have people around you. That's why I thank God for my family, because I brought her around them. And I never forget this. My sister, she was like, my sister Mia, she was like, she the one, brother. And I'm like, she's from Chicago. She the one, brother. You know what I mean? And I was like, Mia, why? She said, I seen how she watch you when you not looking.
That's good.
Listen. My sister Mia Taylor was like, I watched her watch you. She the one, brother. And so you need to have somebody that's genuinely for you, that she about you. Because a lot of times they just want what they want from you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but
okay. See, because you done took me down. You done took me down through some things.
Sir,
do she have her own thing though? Because most of the time, the argument that some of the women who probably ain't really need to be attached to somebody right now would be like, well, I ain't his servant and So does she have her own interests in things that she does? Or did it just so happen to work that whatever you had going on, she was able to always just mold into and make it that one flesh? And well, she also speaks, she also has a word that she gives, or she just has a mind for the things that you're interested in. How did that work out for her in this equation?
I think for her, like, so now Karen, even before we got married, she was serving in ministry. She served her, her uncle was a pastor, so she served there. And she's always been like that mother. She's always been a mothering type. I mean, like I know God put her on this earth to mother people, not just our children, but other people. And she has that grace. And so I think that it was important for her to know that whatever she wanted to do, I was always going to support her.
Yeah.
And by the grace of God, because she's the woman that God called for me to have, what she wanted to do was what I was doing.
Right.
And everything that God calls her to do is in conjunction with who He created her to be. And he's created her to be a helpmeet to me. Yeah. And so she's found her lane in different ways. Now, yes, she's completely whole. She was everything that she needed to be before she got to me. And if something happens to me and I'm gone, I ain't got no problem that she's gonna live her life. I told her, be careful who you get with. I'm gonna become a ghost.
Now you said that, but I don't want you to breeze by that like that's the norm. Is that she was whole when you got with her? That she was who she was going to be. That's not something to skip over here. Like, stop just getting with these reclamation projects.
Now, let me tell you this, though. Let me tell you what made me know that she was my wife. Now, we were in this paraministry organization when we first met. And we were doing like youth ministry in the city and stuff like that. And so we had this youth conference. And during this youth conference, you got this room full of teenagers and, just spiritual warfare just break out. I'm talking about demons manifesting, all this kind of stuff in the church. And so we casting out demons, we praying for folk. And by the end of the night, I just fall out by the pulpit or podium. And I just pass out, just exhausted spiritually and physically. And I'm awakened by cries, prayers, and tears on my face. Like this girl, this 19-year-old girl is praying over me. I mean, like wailing and interceding for me. And that's how I come back to. And when I got up, I said, that's my wife. It wasn't her twerking. Yeah. It wasn't no DM that she sent me. It wasn't no picture. It wasn't nothing that she physically did to me. They was like, oh, her tears. Yeah. And her tears and her prayers, bro. Yeah. That fell on me, that brought me to, I was like, oh, I'm done. I'm sold. Wow. If you can pray for me like this. Yeah. Oh, I'm good for the rest of my life. That's what made me know she was my wife.
That's good, Doc.
Brother,
I ain't gonna hold you.
I'm telling you, man.
That's good, Doc.
Listen, if she can't pray for you, she shouldn't play with you. I'm serious, because I mean, everybody can play. Everybody can enjoy those nuances of life, but I need to hear let me hear you pray. Let me hear you pray for me.
Yeah. Come on. Come on, Randy C. Mays.
just go. Oh, can you pray for me tonight, girl?
Right. Now you're bashful.
That's the test.
You can't
right
fight
there.
no battles for me. Listen, I need you to be able to pray.
Listen, I ain't trying to be disgusting, but if she quick to put her mouth on you, but can't put her mouth toward God for you, she not the one. She not the one.
Listen.
She not the one, sir. Ma'am, keep your mouth to yourself.
Yeah.
Pray for him first.
Yeah.
Pray for him first.
That's good.
Yeah, man.
Okay. We've lauded Lady K. Yeah. We've lauded Lady K for about 20 minutes.
Yeah, I'm gonna come off my girl.
You deserve it.
She the one.
But now we talk about, now she done been able to put her mouth towards God for you. Hey, man. Now she's been able to put that mouth on you because
hallelujah.
Now we're joined in union. Amen.
Amen.
She covering you in those prayers. Now we covering ourselves in each other.
Hallelujah.
Now there are children.
Yes, sir.
That are in the equation. Let's talk about fatherhood. How you've taken all the experiences that you've had. How you've now used that. And none of us are perfect in fatherhood. I have 3 and a niece. You have
4.
You have 4. Let's talk about that process and what you've learned in fatherhood. Some of the ups, some of the downs, just how that also, because listen, we're always evolving. You went from having experiences as a kid to being called into ministry away from the life that you thought, into having an experience as what you thought was you were going to be a father, and then into marriage, and then into business. Now we're talking about another shift into fatherhood. Walk me through that process.
So fatherhood is interesting because when Karen and I got married, Karen had her first child at 16. Okay. And I mean, that's a whole nother story in itself. Yeah. But my oldest son, and he's my son. No doubt about it. That's my son. Say less. You know, we even went as far as I adopted him, changed his name and everything.
That's how you do that.
So, even that process, that maturated her. You know, so by the time we get together, she had already done some soul searching and God had already worked on her. And so I come into this marriage as a 21-year-old with a 5-year-old. And I got to be dad to him. And the beautiful thing about our relationship, like he called me dad day one. It wasn't anything that was prompted by my wife. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like God put us together. Like that's my son. Even now, you know, he's on grown, you know, in the music industry and stuff like that. But, you know, we talk every day, dad, such and such. And, you know, that's my boy.
Yeah.
But I had to learn so much so quick.
Yeah.
And so I had to, and he'll tell you because we, you know, we had Keon was first and then we didn't have, the other three, we didn't start having them until about 2009.
Okay.
So, you know, he was a 9-year-old by the time the others started coming. And so he'll tell you like, man, yeah, dad way different with y'all than he was with me. So I'm trying to be hard and you know what I mean? I'm trying to be a dad, you know what I mean? I'm trying to be all of that. But even him, he helped me and he's learned and there have been many conversations we've had even now as he's a young man, I'm an older man, but we're able to dialogue. And so I thank God for him for allowing me to be his father and to learn fathering with him.
Yeah.
So that I could be a better father even to his siblings. And so then when the other three came along, you know, and Karen, she ended up being pregnant like 4 years straight. It was weird. You know what I mean?
So my wife, take hope. My wife was pregnant and then we got married and then she was pregnant again. I was like, ooh.
Joey 2009, Caitlin 2011, Christy 2013. So that's so you could.
Yeah, they just.
It was like back to back.
Boy, you really wasn't playing, but once you showed them you could pray for them, that hope.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you this. Like, so after Caitlin, we were good. So she was like, listen, I'm gonna do this. We're gonna have these kids, but you got to give me a personal trainer.
Yeah,
and so
I like
that. I got her a personal trainer. She got right quick.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, shout out to Beast Mode. You know what I mean? In LA.
Yeah.
You know, man, that was like $600 some a month. Lord Jesus, Lord. I was like, that was a car. You know what I'm saying? That was. Woo!
Yeah,
listen, by the grace of God. But I mean, she get up at 4:00 in the morning. I mean, she working it out. You know what I'm saying? And I guess she did too good. Cause then Christy came.
Caution.
Listen,
caution.
All that work with
don't come around look like something now.
She get up early, come back sweaty, get at the shower.
Yeah. Don't snap back too quick.
Come her.
Yeah. Now.
So listen, you know the crazy thing is actually we were preaching for Cornelia one year, and when we found out we were pregnant with Christy.
Wow.
Here in Arlington, Texas, we found out. We went back home like, Lord, what is we gonna do? Because we already got 2 babies at the house.
Yeah.
And a preteen. Lord Jesus. But even in that, my children have taught me that I have to be nuanced in order to be effective.
Yeah.
That's one of the best things that my children have taught me. Like I can't treat Caitlin like I treat Joey. I can't treat Joey like I treat Christy. I can't treat Christy like I treat Keon. I have to be nuanced. I have to know them well enough to discipline them properly. You know, Christy, she's one that I will have to whoop her.
Yeah.
For her to get it. Like Christy, she needs some physical reinforcement at times. Cause she's very strong willed. I mean, like that girl, listen, she gonna change the world for sure.
Yeah.
Caitlin, on the other hand, I can say, Caitlin, I'm very disappointed at you. Oh my God. I mean, she crying. It's everything. Yeah. And so you got to be nuanced in order to be an effective parent.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think about mine. You know, my oldest is 15, and she was so smart, super smart. I mean, I'm talking about always the smartest in her class. The teachers, we would come in, and I don't know why I didn't take slight to this, but she was just like, "What are y'all doing?" Like, she's just such. I'm like, "What you mean? What we doing?" But she was just always just read at 3, just spoke well. Didn't have to. Man, I'm talking about. It got to a point where I just didn't have to touch her. Like, I just, the look, and she was gonna ball up in a corner.
Wow.
So then I got my 3-year-old Ava, who is like a spitting image of my 15-year-old, and then Riley is the pistol starter. She the one that
is going down.
My mother-in-law just told me a story about her the other day, reaching for something that she wasn't supposed to reach for, and simultaneously bracing for impact because she thought she was about to get hit. She's like, I'm going to do this, fam. I'm
ready for the smoke.
But I'm going to take it too. You see what I'm saying? And so I agree with you, man. It's so much in being a father that shifts us and really helps grow, because nuance is so important. I'm like, the stuff with my 15-year-old, it just ain't flying with these kids.
Exactly.
And then not to mention my niece who's 13, who that's a whole nother situation. I love her to death, but she probably challenges me more than all of them.
Yeah, turn up.
And so, it's one of those things, man. So I'll end it like this. Like I said, this is a platform for the men, and we want the women to take a peek inside because it will help give them context.
Absolutely.
But what is the lasting thing that you want to leave with men that can help them towards their journey of being whole, of being healthy, being healed?
Be aware of yourself, but never take your eyes off the grace of God. Look at you. Be aware of you. Engage with you, but never allow yourself to get distant from the fact that His grace is always sufficient. Be aware. Know your triggers. Know what you need to stop. Know what you need to start. Always be aware of yourself. Practice mindfulness. Just take a moment. Think, how am I feeling? It's good to be able to use those expression words. I'm feeling challenged. I'm feeling scared. I'm feeling nervous, whatever the case may be. Be aware of yourself, but never get disconnected from the grace of God, because the grace, I love how Paul says it. He says, by the grace of God, I am who I am.
Wow.
And by the grace of God, sir, you will be who you are. You will be who God has created you to be.
That's good.
Yeah, man.
That's good insight. Tell the people how they can reach you. Give your social media handles.
Yes, sir.
Anything pertinent that you want to put out there, we'll put it on the screen so they can be able to get in contact with you. Let them know.
The easiest thing is, we on the gram. So just follow me on the gram at James Ray Taylor. And then also you can catch me anytime at Koinonia, at KCC Fam. We always there doing the Lord's work. And I'm honored to be here. Thank you, sir.
Man, it's been a pleasure. Thank you guys for tuning in to Couch Talk from the Mind of a Man podcast. This is episode number 1. Thank you to my dog.
Man, listen, I'm honored. I'm number 1. I'm honored.
I appreciate James Ray Taylor, man, for stopping by, man. Until next time, say la, man. Peace.
Peace.